Cape Town has faced several devastating fires this December, leaving hundreds of residents displaced. Now, the city's MMC for Human Settlements is calling on President Cyril Ramaphosa, as well as the Human Settlements Minister, to urgently devolve the emergency housing grant to the city. Now, the city believes devolving, which in other words means the transferring of power to a lower government level, will fast-track provision of housing for fire-affected residents in informal settlements. Let's talk to Sonica Lategan, who's the city spokesperson then for the Disaster Risk Management Center. Sonica, thank you so much for the time today. Then I don't know how much you can pretty much talk to how this transfer of these funds to a lower level of government would speed up the process here and how much that would certainly help the situation as a whole.
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me to your show. So yes, if I can start with, in previous years, the city has provided building materials to affected persons outside of a declared disaster. So we did this in an effort to speed up assistance to the affected households. But this was all subject to funding from the national government, but these funds are no longer available. So the city cannot provide these starter kits to affected homeowners as it did in the past. So we can only submit applications to provincial and national government for assistance and access to emergency funding if the incident has been declared as a local disaster. And yes, a meeting was held on Friday with our political office bearers and the National Minister of Human Settlements, where they discussed the issue of emergency housing, and our mayoral committee member, as you also mentioned now, has put a request forward to the president to transfer this, to transfer the emergency housing grant to the city of Cape Town. But that is all that I, from disaster management side, can comment on. So if you need any other clarity on this matter, I suggest that you rather contact our local Department of Human Settlements.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that you probably don't know much more, but just to ask a final question on that, you don't know when we would receive any clarification on that, would you?
I know that the National Minister and our mayoral committee member for our local Department of Human Settlements will meet tomorrow. We've received communication that the National Minister will be in attendance when they hand over the building material that they've committed to provide to the affected people. So those building material will be provided in Dunoon and Masiphumelele and Nomzamo. So in the meeting tomorrow morning before that distribution, that will probably be discussed there. But for now, this is the only information that I have.
Do we know the full cost of this disaster so far?
Look, it hasn't been declared a disaster, and for now, we're just focusing on assistance with humanitarian relief, that is soft relief, and to make sure that the city services that needs to go out and provide support and service to the people, that they are activated. But in terms of the cost of this emergency, I don't have information now.
Yeah, I mean, it's also just very positive to see, though, that according to yourselves, that victims should receive assistance within 24 hours. This is rarely achieved, though. Why is that changing now? What's different this time?
So, if I understand you correctly, you are saying that we can't provide assistance in 24 hours. Is that what you are asking?
I'm saying that according to disaster management guidelines, so this is an article that we're reading, according to disaster management guidelines, victims should receive assistance within 24 hours, which is rarely achieved. Why is that the case?
So when we speak about if it's rarely achieved, we normally speak about the assistance in terms of emergency housing. In terms of other services, we try to immediately go onto the site after the fire services has extinguished the fire. Disaster management immediately goes out to do an assessment, and we activate our services. If these, in normal cases or in incidents like this, it is normally electricity infrastructure, it is water taps and it's sanitation facilities that gets damaged. So we activate those services within 24 hours. So the turnaround time for them to repair and reconnect would be 1 to 2 days, but that is also dependent on the nature of the work required and the extent of damage that is correlated to the amount of structures that has been affected. And in cases like Masiphumelele, we have 86 structures that has been affected. In Nomzamo, there's been 53. In Langa alone, there's been 307 structures. So our services needs to go out and do repair and do reconnecting of infrastructure. So it could take a little bit longer than normal because there was a fire every day now, and it hasn't been fires less than 10 structures. It has been almost 100 structures every day. So our city services are working around the clock, hence it could be taking a little bit longer.
Am I correct in saying that this information all comes from the formal assessment that the Disaster Risk Management Center actually did conduct on Friday, so that verifies all that data as well that you've just shared with us?
Yes, the latest data that we have available for Langa is 307 structures and 692 people. We did put out statistical information on Friday to the media, but then afterwards some more people came because they obviously have been in work and only came afterwards to register.
So all those needing help right now still being used are 3 churches in the community which have still opened themselves up for this accommodation. Is that where a lot of the assistance is still coming for now in terms of where people are residing?
Yes, in the noon, there's been 3 churches that opened up, but normally people prefer to go stay at friends and family. But in the instance of the noon, churches opened up the halls, and also the Sanko offices in the noon opened up the halls. But like I said, in other areas, the displaced people rather went to friends and family.
Yeah. Just as a final, I suppose, sentiment again, warnings to consumers, warning to people just around of course, the wind being a key factor here, just the worriedness around just open flames as well in and around their households. What can you offer as a method to just understanding why we're here and what people should be doing less of in order to avoid these sort of situations?
Yes, like you mentioned now, during windy conditions, we request people to be very, very cautious when they make open fires. We know that this is a festive season and people come together, family and friends come together to braai, but we really want them to be cautious when they make fires, especially when it's windy conditions, because anything can happen in a matter of seconds. The challenge that we have is that, especially in informal settlements, the structures are built very close together, so the density is a problem. So if a fire starts, it can spread in a matter of seconds, and the density also causes a problem for our fire engines to access the areas, especially in the Dunoon area. And then we really want people also, if I can say now, over the festive season, people use alcohol. And in many of these cases, when we speak to the communities, they will tell you that somebody came back and tried to cook food, or they went to bed with a cigarette and they fall asleep, and that is how the fire started. So we want people to be cautious when making open fires, and also when they come back from having visited family and friends and cooking food and smoking cigarettes after they've used alcohol.
Yeah, a lot of awareness needed in this situation. Sonica, I appreciate the time this evening. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Newzroom Africa. Sonica Lategan, City spokesperson for the Disaster Risk Management Center.